Hi, everyone. Casey Wiley here from solo.io, and today I'm here to talk about the Gloo Portal. The Gloo Portal provides a framework for managing API docs, protobuf files, and you can easily share your API specs across teams and collaborate easier. The Gloo Portal can run on top of Gloo Edge Enterprise, which I'm running Gloo Edge Enterprise under the covers today, but it can also run on top of Istio. The Gloo Portal supports monetization, rate limiting on your APIs, and is a very feature-rich product. But now we're going to start from installing the Gloo Portal. I'm going to talk to you guys about 4 custom resource definitions that come in the Gloo Portal. And to illustrate this, I have a Golang app that I wrote. It uses REST. It has an open API spec, version 3. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So the first part is to install the Helm repository for the dev portal. The next part is to create a Helm overrides file. This file, if you're looking on line 12, you see it's glue.enabled set to true. This is necessary for integration with Gloo Edge Enterprise. Okay, we've created a Helm overrides file. And now lastly, we're going to create the dev portal namespace and install through Helm. Okay. So the next part, we're going to make sure the pods are up in the dev portal namespace. So the admin server is running. It has 3 containers, and the dev portal is also running. Okay. The first custom resource definition that we're going to talk about is called the API doc. The API doc's purpose is to point to a Swagger spec or a proto file. So the dev portal also supports gRPC, but due to the fact that we have a REST service, we're pointing to this open API spec that we referenced earlier. Once we apply this API doc called task schema, it's actually going to discover the operations from the open API spec. Okay, so now we've applied this. One thing we always want to do after we apply an API doc is we want to check the status.state and make sure it's in a succeeded state. We're going to get the API doc, task schema. We're going to go O JSON path dot status dot state, and we should see succeeded here if all goes correct. Okay, so status.state has succeeded, but I also want to point out that Gloo Portal will also discover endpoints. So under the status, you see Open API. It has discovered the operations from the Open API spec. And this is going to be the same if you're running a proto file. Okay, so we just discussed that the API doc is really for pointing to your API definition. In this case, it's an Open API spec. The very next custom resource definition is called an API product. Here, we're creating an API product called task product. It's also going to exist in the default namespace. We have a description, which is the task product, also a title. But the real purpose behind the API product is to define versions. So you can have different versions in cloud environments. It's very common to be rolling out enhancements and new versions of your backend services. Perhaps you have developers that are still using a prior version and they need the specs too, and then you have a new version rolling out, and you have to communicate that with people. For the sake of this, let's just remember that the API product's real purpose is to define versions. So we have version number 1 defined here, v1. It's referencing the API doc task schema in the default namespace, which we just created in the API doc. And then this API product is actually backed by a Kubernetes service. It's called Task. It exists in the default namespace on port 8080. And I've already deployed the task application that I wrote in Golang. And we can verify that here. It's also running at 8080. Okay. So let's go ahead and apply the API product so that we can have a version. Okay, the API product has been created. Now, let's look at the API product. And similar to the API doc, the API product does have the V1, and it actually shows the routes. We can delete a task, we can get the all tasks, we can create a new task, we can delete a task by the ID, we could get a task by the ID. So this looks good. Our API product's good. Now let's move on to the next custom resource definition, which is an environment. So the purpose of the environment is to house your API products. Just like the API product references the API doc, the environment is going to reference the API product. This environment is called dev. And through this environment, we're going to be able to actually use our API definition and actually curl against it. That's kind of out of the scope of this video, but we could do that. So this dev environment exists in the default namespace. It has a domain associated with it. The domain is api.task.com. It has a description and a display name. And then we have the API products that we are referencing. If we had more than one version of our API product, we would put it in this array right here under published versions. But for now, our API product is referencing our environment is referencing the task product API products. Okay, so we created our environment. Now let's type the manifest of the environment out to YAML and check its status and make sure it's succeeded. Okay, so again, we see the routes were discovered, and we can tell that this is in a good state because status.state is equal to succeeded. Perfect. So now the last custom resource definition that we're going to talk about is called a portal. This portal is named Task Portal. It exists in the default namespace. It has a display name and a description, but it has a little bit more interesting context to it in that it has a banner. The banner is what's going to be on the very background of your portal behind the title. It has a favicon, which is a very tiny icon that sits in the browser tabs on the top, and it has a primary logo. You could also add custom styling or static pages. There is a domain, and we also have our published environments, which we're referencing the dev environment that we just created. Now, I went ahead and uploaded my custom images to a website called img.ur.com. It seems like a meme website. This is the banner, but it works for this example because we're able to upload static images here. So logo, favicon, banner. We're going to go ahead and apply this portal. Okay. So we've just created our portal. Now we're going to check portal and to make sure it's in a good state. We can see the status.state is in a succeeded state. So we know that this portal is working and we're in actually good shape here. Okay, so now you're probably asking, well, how do I actually access the portal that I've created? Where do I go to actually see my API spec? So we're going to go ahead and cover that right now. Before we can share our API specs, we have to create groups and users, and we'll basically be adding users to a group, which will create API access when they sign into your portal. So the first thing we're going to do is if we look at the pods in the dev portal namespace, we'll see this API server. So we're actually going to port forward the API server to our local host at 8080. And from here, oh, I'm sorry. I said API server, but I meant to say admin server. And now we have our admin server on localhost 8080. Okay, so now we're actually looking at our portal. We can see we have this task portal defined. We have the APIs. We can look at our API product, the API doc. Routes, we don't have any. You can look at API keys if we had created them. But what we're mostly interested in is we want to be able to access this task portal. So if we look at this task portal in a new tab, we hit the home page, we want to log in. The problem is we don't have a user created, so we're not going to be able to log in. So let's go ahead and fix that. The first thing we want to do in this admin server is create a group. We'll call the group devs. Next, users. We haven't created a user yet, so we'll go ahead and pass. We want this group to access the task product, API products. We have no plans right now, but we could theoretically set a rate limiting plan if we wanted to. And we want access to the task portal. So now we created a group devs that has access to the API product. The last thing we need to do is create a user. My username is going to be called Case Wiley. Email, use casewiley@gmail.com. Password, whatever you want. And it's going to be changed as soon as you log in the first time. We're going to add this user to the devs group. We're going to give this user access to the task product API. And then we're going to add our portal to this user. So perfect, amazing. Now we've created the user in the group. Let's go ahead and sign into our portal. And it's going to ask us to update our password. Updated. From here, we have access to actually view our APIs. We see our task products. We see our version 1, which is the only version we have in this case. We had a defined host, which we can actually see here, api.task.com. And then we can actually look at our Swagger spec and see what we're expecting when users want to interact with this API. So that includes this very quick wrap up of the Gloo portal. I hope you all enjoyed. If you want more information on the portal, go to solo.io. You can request a demo and you can look at our docs. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.